Hello, it's me and a laptop. I'm doing one of those laptop things. Now, Mike and Lucy are not busy enough. That much is apparent because they've been on and on at me for ages about this. We want to decide like a World Cup of your TV cars and whatever. So I gave them a list and then they've apparently culled that list down to a sort of short list. I've told you, not busy enough, which is still quite a long list from which I've got to whittle down with this device they've spent ages putting together by means of which I can sort of filter them down. So we're going to have like semi-finals and then finals and then we have a winner of my favourite ever TV car. You can do this with me. As I go through the cars, you can maybe make your own decisions. As you'll see from the screen, it sort of plots a route like a family tree. I don't know, I think they'd been drinking, but they've come up with this and told me to do it. So I'm going to go through the cars and of each of these pairs I have to pick one that I want to go through to the next stage. So, first two, Rover 416 GTI, that was our first £100 car challenge. I remember that. God, I do remember that. I remember buying, I bought it in this area. And that is against a Jeep Cherokee, which was from our sort of one of our last Jeep car challenges actually on that show that rhymes with flop tier. So of those two, I'm going to go for the Rover because it was an heroic car. It generally cost 100 quid. The only thing against going for the Rover is Mike will be delighted with that. I know he's delighted because he's standing there and he's really happy. Child, I knew you. Okay, that's actually your dream car. The next two, the Mini from the India Special. I do remember that car. I ripped the front off it. And the Suzuki Super Carry from Man with a Van, which I had to flip on its side. And you see me doing it in that photograph. It actually took about 10 attempts. The damn thing would not go over. I was scan flicking it in to try and get it to do it. Eventually it did in explosive form, very nearly rolled, and I've still got whiplash. When I get tired and stressed, I get it's like I'm wearing a metal swimming cap. It's very uncomfortable. But I'm actually going to put the Suzuki through. I don't know, I like a Mini. No, the Suzuki's going through, it had character and personality, and those are the criteria I'm judging this on. You can make your own decisions as we go through and you might come up with a different result, but you'll be wrong. Right, Nissan 300ZX, that was from 1,500 quid rear-wheel drive coupes. I remember that trip. Jeremy threw my sunroof off a cliff and I hated it. Toyota Land Cruiser, God, I hated that car. It was awful, but of those two, it's Land Cruiser, legend. I mean, it's a Land Cruiser, come on. The Australians, if you want to get into the outback, take a Land Rover. If you want to get back again, take a Land Cruiser. Oh, this is difficult. My Isuzu TX from the Burma Special truck. Had character, but also Ferrari 304 GT4, which I did buy off production. It was when we did supercars for the price of Mondeos. I loved that little yellow car. I'm going to put that through against the truck, which the truck had, we did thousands of miles on the thing across Burma. We all had trucks. And I took one look at mine and realized the seat was just like full width, this massive cab, wooden. And it was just a piece of wood like that and a piece of wood like that, like a church pew. In fact, I called it in the film my church pew. And it was agony. Deeply uncomfortable, hateful thing. Bags of character, but not as much as that little 308 GT4, which I wish I still had. 1,500 coupes, not Porsches. BMW 635 CSI. Oh, and I went grass tracking in it, and I loved that. Chevy G20 DIY ambulance, when I pulled up and pressed the button to fire the stretcher through the window into the hospital. I loved that. But the 635, that's a fabulous thing. That was, yeah, we did do grass tracking in that, didn't we? Didn't we? We did. Yeah, I put the half a fridge on the front to give me a spoiler. But see, that's proper racing. Grass tracking now, people spend fortunes on really, really elaborate cars to do it, and they get all competitive and serious about it. Whereas, what I like is that you buy yourself an old snotter, and you and your mates just rag them round a field until one of you is killed, or the car breaks. So, oh, now look. Saxo VTS Rallycross, which I loved, but beneath it is a certain little yellow Opel Kadett. Well, oh, come on, it'd be a betrayal. I can't It's got to be Oliver, isn't it? I mean, I do love a Saxo VTS. They were ace little... I did own one for a bit because I thought, hang on a minute, they're going to go up in value like Peugeot 205 GTIs, Golf GTIs, and they didn't. Well, they did a bit, but not enough. Right, the winner of those two is Oliver. It has to be, bless him. Right, Dodge Ram pickup. That's from our $1,000 US cars. That was one of our first big specials, really. And I loved my pickup. And against it, Subaru WRX from the Source of the Nile film. Oh, I do. I love a Subaru, and that car was tremendous. I seem to remember I fitted an armchair to the roof of it for quite a long time. Did I? Yeah, I did. I think that was me. I sat in an armchair on the roof of a car. I think it was Mike. It's a long time ago. I think that now the Dodge Ram's going through. Strangely enough, DRIVETRIBE romping about with the Dodge Ram to play it. No connection, because I'm picking that because I like it. All right. So, MGB-GT, Cheap Classics. That's one of the last films we ever made on that television program. Porsche 924, 1,500 quid Porsches. Oh, I loved that. That was actually bought by Jim, who used to work on the production. It was Jim Wiseman, who rose to be a producer on the show, but he started as like Lois, just scum class. And I remember early days, we were kicking ideas around in the office. And this is how it used to work. It was great, because they were all creative people. And Jim just said, and he was about 12 years old. He said, well, why do people always do things the way they do them? Why, things are always done in like a certain way? It's boring. What do you mean? Well, why, for instance, do people always try and see how many buses you can jump over on a motorcycle? Well, because that's what you do. Wow, wouldn't it be better if you tried to see how many motorcycles you could jump over in a bus? And we all went, yeah, that is genius, actually. And we did it. We shot it. It was great. But even much as I love Jim, he's ace, I'm still going to pick the MGB GT because I've actually still got that car. And we now race it, the smallest cog. It looks a bit smarter than it did there. So are these the semi-finals? These are the semi-finals, completed. So I'm going to reject all of the others. I'm going to move on to stage 2. You can do this yourself. You might have the same results or different, but mine are right. Back then to top left, Rover 416 GTI. That was the original £100 cheap car challenge, which you can't do nowadays because you can't buy a car for 100 quid anymore. Versus the Super Carry. Oh no. The little van was tremendous. Weirdly, twice in my life, I've had to stick one of those little Suzukis on their side. And my advice is don't, because they're very high and very narrow, and yet very really, all the weight, what weight there is right down at the bottom, very reluctant to go over. And when they do, whiplash, I still get it. So those two, annoyingly, because it's Mike's favourite, I'm going to pick the Rover, because that was early days of the show, and no other car show had done that before. It was a new thing. Rather than trying to get flash expensive cars, just go and see what cheap ones you can get. And mine was a really good little car. Right, that goes through to the final. That's just sports weird, isn't it? I mean, how did that get into the final? Or semi-final? Semi-final, because then we got a final. All right, yeah. Right. Toyota Land Cruiser versus 308 GT4. Only here would we have that head-to-head, and it makes perfect sense. Right, the Toyota. It was very badly broken. I had for a week or so been sort of mentioning every now and again to production while we were filming that my car had no clutch or brakes. And I mean, it really didn't. This wasn't like a television presenter, I've got no brakes. No, the brakes did not work, and neither did the clutch. The only way I could start the car was put it into first gear low ratio, then start the engine, and then just drive it clutchlessly, which was all right until I drove through La Paz, which is busy. I hated it. Also, the window didn't shut, which is okay unless you're driving through a rainforest. because that means going past trees. And every time I did, I'd pass a tree and the fronds of the tree would come in through the window like that and just deposit whatever hideous creatures were living in the tree into my lap. There was something living in the dashboard of it. I'd be driving through the night. They every now and again would leap out and go and make a noise. And I never saw it. I don't know what it was. There was also a brown recluse spider in it, which is the one that bites and necrotizes your skin so it rots off while you're alive until you die. That was in there. And the little 308, it's ugly, it's gawky, it's underpowered, but it was such an appealing little car. It had 4 seats. I'm going to pick the 308, which is a remarkable thing over a Land Cruiser, because a Land Cruiser is a solid old classic, but that thing was a complete shed. Into the semi-final. The semi-final over this side will be Rover 416 GTI versus Ferrari 308 GT4. We should have done this before. They haven't wasted their time. It's a good idea. I won't tell them that. No, it's not a good idea. Right, back into the, what's the bit before a semi-final called then?
Quarter-final.
What?
Quarter-final.
Quarter-final. It's quarter-final. Back to the quarter-final. On this side, BMW 635 CSI from 1500 Quid Coupes versus Oliver. Oh, that is, they're both sort of saloony-ish, but I mean, yes, the 635 CSI is a fabulous car. I love it, and I had a great day filming it. It's a bloody long time ago. But Oliver is Oliver. I've got to. Why did you put Oliver in this? Because I'm going to leave him in. He's got to make it through to the semi from the quarterfinal, which we're in now. Right, and the other match in the quarterfinal, Dodge Ram. Ooh, that's a knotty one, versus MG BGT Cheap Classics. Do you know, I had never driven an MG BGT until we shot that. And I'd always been in the opinion, oh, this is an old farty old man's thing, I'm not interested, it's rubbish. God, it was lovely. Pitting free to style, don't they? Really, really fabulous little car. The Dodge Ram pickup, I love a pickup. I loved driving it in the States. It felt so right. I didn't like it quite so much when they took exception to what we'd written on the side of our cars. We didn't know. It's early days for the show, and I think maybe we thought we were in like a bubble because we're making TV, but we weren't. We were out there in Alabama, and we had rude messages written on our car, which we thought were funny. So Jeremy had Hillary for president. No, Jeremy had NASCAR sucks written on his car. James had Hillary for president, and I had man love rules okay, which with hindsight wasn't brilliant. And the locals really took exception. And guns. Turned out at a petrol station, honestly, it was one lady came in, say lady, as we were filling the cars. You can see it on the film, and all we hear is, "Y'all queers trying to see how long you last in a hick town?" No. She wasn't the most enlightened of individuals. I mean, not everybody in that neck of the woods is racist and homophobic, of course they're not. But some, it would appear, at that time, were. And they took it very badly. And then more men turned up in trucks, literally sitting in the back of the trucks with shotguns. And we thought, I'm going to run away. By which point Jeremy had already run away, and James's car wouldn't start, his caddy wouldn't start. They were throwing rocks, big rocks at us by now. And I had to get the jump leads out and jump start James. And you hear me say on the film, "Not now!" and get in the battery and get his car started. And then we just ran away. I love running away. A runaway is a really enlivening thing to do. And we ran away, clean across Alabama, Louisiana, just kept going. And all the time we had CBs on and we could hear them. I got them here at the crossroads. Ooh! We thought it was going to get a bit, banjo. So I'm going to go for the MG BGT because I love it. I still have the car. Oh, that's quite a... what a semi-final that's going to be. Oliver against the MG BGT. Okay, I'm going to put that out of my mind. I'll come back to it. Right, we're over to the semi-final now on the left-hand side. You're still with me. I don't know. You can let me know what results you got when we get to the end of this. They might match. Right, Rover 416 GTI versus 308. Both very characterful cars, actually. I'm going to give it to the Ferrari because it's such a good, I'm sorry, Mike. Look at his little face. Because I genuinely miss that car. I was sort of scared to carry on owning it because I knew it was going to go wrong at some point, and it might be a cheap Ferrari, but it's still got Ferrari written on it. And ironically, it wouldn't have been a cheap Ferrari by now. It's one of the few cars I'd have made money on. But I sold it. So that's going through to the final. Actually, I'm happy with that. It's a car I still think about. I'm just going to keep talking to you for a bit now because over here, I've got Oliver against the MGB GT. Oh. Right. Oliver is Oliver. But that little MGB GT I still have as well. And we now race him. I need to think. I'm going to just pace. Think amongst yourselves. I'll be back in a bit. I don't want to be predictable, which if I choose Oliver, it is. But if I don't choose Oliver, I'm not being true to myself. Oh! It's Oliver. I'm choosing Oliver. I'm sorry, I have to. Which means the final. Two little yellow cars. Neither of them the best examples of automotive genius in history. The ugliest and gawkiest of Ferraris, really. And Oliver the Opel. Strangely, I've now owned and still own one of those cars. I've owned both of them. Okay, well, you may have your say on this at the end. I would like you to comment. I'd like to hear what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Those two. The 308 was characterful. Actually, it had a bit of Oliver about it. It's quite a plucky little thing. It's not overpowered. But it made me feel good. It's a feel-good, happy car. It really was. I smiled every time I drove it. And then there's Oliver. And the verdict is in. And the winner is, well, all right, you called it right at the outset. It's Oliver. I'm going to have to, what else could I do? I was stuck. I don't know. I can't really justifiably call it any other way. So my favorite car of all the TV cars we've done was and is Oliver. Yours almost certainly won't be. It can be whatever it is. You've had a bit of a reminder of them there. Maybe you can let us know in the comments what your favorite is, and more importantly, why. You had to watch these things, I just had to drive around in them. That concludes then the World Cup of Top Gear cars, what I've driven. I'd like to know what yours would be. Thank you for watching, comment and all of that stuff.